Okay, thank you. Do me a favor, Shlomo, when you go back, just flip on those lights. So
Sure. Will do.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. Tidiyam Baba. You ready?
Yeah, he's recording.
Okay. So we're on top of each group Nun Hey, and we're in the middle of the second line from the top.
You have to call it out.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. I'm sorry.
IDT Connect. Please enter your conference ID. Welcome. Thank you. You are now entering the conference room. To exit the conference room, press ***. For help, press *9. Participant number 1.
Okay, yeah, so let's start. Page group Nun Hey, the second line from the top. We are focused on the principle that anything occurring in the world is enabled by it first being known on the godly level. Without that knowledge, that occurrence could not come to be. And we say this to the extent that although every human being presumably acts by his own discretion, what's called bechira, that bechira is in fact enabled by the fact that it is previously known at the creator's level, in the creator's mind. Were it not for that knowledge, he would not be able to execute, to follow this, and to do anything, in fact. To summarize this, which is important for us to recognize, all existence is a divine creation. And it's a divine creation not only where it originates, but everything that develops as a result of its own actions, which appears to be his own discernment, his own choices, is also enabled by the divine identity, enabling. If not for that, there could not be such an action. If we put this concept in contrast to our natural view, our natural view is that there is an area called nothingness, undefined, and this undefined nothingness has absolutely no prerequisites, no rules as to how you enter and what you do there. Both on the entry level, there is no preclusive, anybody can enter it, anything can enter it. It is open, there's nothingness. And then subsequently, you can do anything that occurs to you at the moment. There are no rules in that nothingness. It sounds preposterous to think of it this way. Nonetheless, this is the attitude that we have, that we form in terms of our behavior in the reality. In the simple reality. It has no definitions whatsoever. And on the basis of this perception, we can go ahead and act in total self-discretion. Not only self-discretion, we in our mind are creating this circumstance. There's no circumstance but for our involvement, or for anything intrusive into this nothingness. The nothingness does not create a circumstance. In effect, I never went in that direction, but I just want to go through it so we'll have a clear view as to what is the reality in which we operate, and what Chassidus is based on, what Torah is based on. In effect, this approach, this view, is really on par, is equal to the view that any animal has on his own environment. And even that it facilitates a tree to grow to endless height is due to this principle. There's nothing interfering with its growth. There's no significance to that growth except for the fact that the tree can grow there. In that view, the tree is not really describing the world presentation. Every tree presents its own being. There is no overall message brought forth by the fact that there are so many different creatures in the world. Because each creature creates its own platform, its own venue. There are no there are no meanings to any of these creatures. Whether it be a lion and a tiger, or it be a giraffe, or it be an elephant, or it be a little cockroach, or a human being. Where then, from this view, where then do these different creatures get their formulation? I went there because in this thing because there are amongst us who are still kind of infected by this viewpoint. Where do these different formulations come from? How come there are so many different trees? How come there are so many different animals? So, coming from this background that we said, that there is essentially the nothingness that allows everything to follow its own discretion. So the differences among the various beings is created, pardon me, as a result of the reaction that each one has by meeting the other being. That can be developed and so forth, but that's sufficient for the purposes that we want to get. What is the the aim of this whole discussion. The aim of this discussion is to alert us and to give us a clear recognition. And I'm repeating this over and over again because this is contrary to the way we think. And that thought process has to be elevated. This principle that we are trying to bring out is that in fact, there is no such thing as nothingness. Nothingness, quote unquote, if we be able to translate that in practical terms, means that which permits things to be, is a divine creation. It's a divine creation and has a divine spirit in it. And not only that, it has a divine source of resources and support for everything that comes to it. This is an extremely important, fundamental view of the world. Thus, if we pursue this view, if this, quote unquote, this nothingness is really a divine view, divine perception, that means that there is a divine principle associated with anything that exists. With space itself. Coming from that impression, what does one walk away with? That in fact, there is no such thing as free choice. Free choice means that he is in an open and free, undefined area. But there is no such thing. And for this, we are learning now. We are learning now, and this is the principle of Yiddishkeit, the principle of Emunas Yisroel, the principle of Breishis Borei Elokim Hashemayim v'Ha'aretz. It is the divine creation that provides for all variations that are possible to occur in the world. And as we're learning straight out, verbatim, the human ability to choose his path in life is part of the creation of the world. Not the ability to choose, not the freedom to choose, but the actual defining element, the pathways that are possible to be involved in this choice are a divine creation. Although the pathways may be extremely varied from one another, like in two different directions totally, day and night, They're all direct provisions from the divine presence in the world, creation of the world. This creation of the world is referred to in Hasidus and in our Maimer as Yidiya. Yidiya means Hashem's knowledge, Hashem's knowing that there is a world. This knowledge is, for lack of a better word, is to translate it in our terminology. Knowledge to us means normally, I know something that is outside of myself. And I know it as a result of encountering it and meeting with it and so forth. I get to know it by any of my capabilities, either sight or hearing or touch or smell, or things of that nature. We are speaking about a completely different meaning in knowledge. We are speaking knowledge as it is in the Creator's mind. That the Creator's mind, that knowledge, is not something that is being discovered. He finds out what's going on in the world, and he knows it. The whole phenomenon of world is first known in the Creator. This is what enables world to be. To bring this to proper context, it means that when you say, I know it, there is no knowledge in a nothingness arena. Knowledge means I know it, how it is, how it fits in the divine reality. Because it's only the divine that provides for the ability, for the possibility of things to be. The divine presence is what provides for the possibility of things to be. And to simplify this and quote the Rambam directly right in the beginning of the Rambam, where the Rambam said that the first principle of wisdom is to know that there is a first being. And this first being is what provides for the existence for presence of everything else. And then the Rambam is not speaking in terms of what kind of creatures he creates, talking about the provision for the possibility of being. This first being is what enables that there should be. There's no such thing as nothingness. Nothingness does not provide for anything. This first being provides for the possibility and ultimately the development of everything that exists. And this is where we are kind of perplexed. He provides for the possibility of things being, and yet you come in his environment, you come in that possibility, and you do your own thing. You don't ask him, where should I go and what should I do? Not only that, you don't even consider his opinion, so to speak. Is this okay for me to do? You act as if you're walking, you're actually acting in nothingness. But this nothingness is a divine creation. How does a created entity provide for a sense of nothingness, of complete openness? This is the question that we're dealing with. And the Rebbe explains that this first creation, we saw it, I say this, which is really a divine creation. That creation is known by the Creator. But this knowledge is what's called a supreme level of knowledge. We try to define, we are into it for a long time. And every time I try to kind of go a little further in it, I have to start from the beginning. The beginning is, in our mind, knowledge means something that I came in contact with, and I examine. That's how I know things. Here we're talking about knowing, but there is nothing to know. The whole phenomenon of being is first surfacing after this knowledge. So what is this knowledge about? Idea. This knowledge is what we call the idea of Dallas Be'erach. It's in a different rung, and it's a different level. This is the knowledge that is not defining what there is. This is the knowledge that enables everything to be. This is the knowledge that provides for what we initially today called the nothingness. It is a divine knowledge that provides for everything to come to be. This nothingness is not nothingness in this literal sense. It is a limitless, the greatest, in other words, the greatest greatness that there is, that everything that is possible is right there, contained in this nothingness, in this knowledge. This is why to us it appears to be as nothingness, because it has no prerequisite, it has no limits. To us, something has no limits, no prerequisites of any kind. It's called nothing. So we are learning to recognize, and we have to reflect that this unbridled, unlimited whatsoever presence that allows for anything to be is really a divine creation. And it's called divine knowledge. It's called, it is the divine knowledge. The divine knowledge is provides for this existence. Why is it called knowledge? Why is it not called creation? This requires a little bit of a step back and to understand what it means. The difference between knowledge and creation is that which occurs on the outside of the creator. Knowledge is that which is present in the creator himself. What does the creator know inherently before there is anything to know? Before there's creation. He knows himself. Knowing himself means knowing all the possibilities that his reality can allow for, can bring about. This is why it's called knowledge. I didn't really, it's called knowledge for these two reasons. Number one, it does not interfere with what it knows. Just like in our knowledge. When you know something, it doesn't interfere. You can know anything that there is. You don't change that which you know by knowing it. Doesn't have to fit into your knowledge in order for it to be known. Knowledge is it's completely open. But there is, I know. Another aspect in knowledge is that knowledge is something which is part and parcel of the knower. You know it because you have that spirit to know it. This knowledge that we're trying to identify here, in contrast to a reactive knowledge. If I get hit, I know I got hit. This is not knowledge in this fundamental level of knowledge. This is not knowledge that comes from my own reality. This is an external effect. We're talking about knowledge that is actually flowing from the internal, from the reality of the being itself. This knowledge has no cause. Why do you know it? You know it because it's real. That's it. Much to speak about this, but just to introduce it, bring us back to where we are. This knowledge is clearly of a supreme refinement level. Because this knowledge has no cause, has no limits as to what you know. You know it because it's true, not because of any kind of occurrences. This is why this knowledge is possible. There should be real knowledge without any demanding of reciprocation. That it should be this way, the way I know it. If I get hit, I know I got hit. This knowledge provides for two principles. Number one, I got hit. Number two, I want the pain to dissipate. And as long as I still have a trace of this pain, it reminds me of the hit, and and I'm waiting for a time when it will dissipate. That knowledge has some kind of a form definition, limit, defining element to how can I know what I'm anticipating from this knowledge. Now we're talking about knowledge that has no cause. Divine knowledge. What's divine knowledge? The truth that is possible to emanate from there. This is divine knowledge. It's not because something is troubling and something's bothering him. He got hit and he reacts to it. He knows what he knows, what he is. This is what we are talking about, divine knowledge at a higher level. At a higher level, that is not a reactive knowledge. It's a knowledge without a cause. It's a knowledge that simply defines what the truth is. This is what Rebbe says. This knowledge does not limit as to what can occur within the area that it knows. This is why there is what's called open choice. Because this knowledge is rooted in the infinity, in infinite reality. And therefore, the possibilities that are contained within therein are limited. This is thus far to the principle that's called idea ubchira. Hashem, everything exists because Hashem knows it. This is what provides for its existence. And yet, what the resultant existence is unhampered in terms of where it can go and what it can do. Having introduced this, now we're coming to even a deeper and more subtle element. That's in the second line on page Kuf Nun Hey. Do I still have some time?
5 minutes.
Excuse me?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, 10 minutes. What? No, this clock is not set.
3 minutes slow.
3 minutes slow? Okay, 3 minutes slow.
So it's 7:20.
Excuse me?
7:20 now.
Oh boy. Huh. Okay. Okay, so we start inside now, the second line on page Kuf Nun Hey. In the middle of the line, Ukishem shehu bidi ubchiro. The same, just as it is, as we've identified it, at the level of idea, ubchiro, that Hashem's knowledge does not preclude the freedom of choice, as we discuss it now. Because this idea is at a supreme level. It allows for everything that can occur there. Okay, this is, I said, it's a different venue completely. Similarly, likewise. Now, the reason that it says just as in the case of Yiddishkeit, he goes to explain this new thing. New something is in a different realm completely. Why does he place it in this way, just as in Yiddishkeit, likewise in this? The reason he places it in this order is because this, which we are going to say now, is totally beyond our conceptualization. We don't even have an approach. How do you handle it? In order to get a stepping stone, so to speak, to enter this new view, the Rebbe begins from a step before. Idea of Bchira are elements that are within human identification. Despite the fact that it's hard for us to understand and to formulate in our mind, what does it mean that creation comes from knowledge? But nonetheless, it is not so far. We know what knowledge is, not creation is. And we say that this knowledge creates it, and things remain for each choice to choose their own path. Having introduced this at this level, which is again not easily understood at all, but at least we have a handle on what we're talking about. So now we go to something which we have absolutely no handle on. Kmoikein likewise, who it is, behabitu, a different realm, on the realm of the beetle. Beetle means complete nullification, self-nullification. Now the word self-nullification is a misnomer, misrepresentation. It's not self-nullification. We're not talking about that the nullification is created by the self. We're talking about the beetle, in the internal beetle, the reality of beetle. Shekol hanivroim betelim, which namely means that all the nivroim, all the creations, all the creatures, betelim, are bottle. Bottle does not mean they don't exist. If they don't exist, then you have nothing to talk about. You have to be bottled. Bottle means they actually exist, but their existence is such that they are not entities separate for that which allows them to exist. And this is what we say, betailing mitzad, because, excuse me, they bottle because of bechinas, the aspect of tzir komediak. Tzir komediak, we haven't yet been given a full explanation what that is. In general, ak is Odom Kadmon. Odom Kadmon means the pristine man, which means the beginning of existence. Existed the beginning of world presence, which begins from a state, from a low level, which is beyond world. It's godliness itself. Huh? It's the beetle that comes because it's shiur komediak. This beetle is effective in the entire reality of existence, even though it's a creation. But all the entities that are present therein have the sense of the beetle, are a part of the beetle of the origin before the creation began. The way it is inside the Eretz. Okay, so this is just very quickly what the Rebbe is saying. Even though they are completely null within the reality that allows them to be, and yet they can have their own choice of pathways. And that will remain for next session. Message.